18, the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I grew up in the district I serve, where I have seen firsthand the results of the failing to hold those in power accountable to the laws of the land. From corporate polluters who continue to violate the Clean Air Act with no real enforcement to stop the violations that hurt our public health. I have also seen firsthand a mega billionaire who directly violated federal and state processes that resulted in thousands of trucks to rumble through our local neighborhoods where 1 in 5 children have asthma. Do you know why those in power looked the other way? Because of political influence of my colleagues who then became conflicted. This is why I rise today to put forward House Res 257 that creates a transparent process to ensure that the protection of our democracy, that ensures that we don't have a lawless society that results in irreparable harm to the American people. Doing nothing when we are seeing blatant disregard of the United States Constitution to our ethical norms is dangerous. No one, Madam Speaker, including the President of the United States, is above the law. I know many have focused on actions that were conducted prior to him taking the oath of office, and that is important. However, as critically important is the actions by the President after he swore to uphold the United States Constitution before all of us. He is not a CEO, Madam Speaker, anymore, but a public servant that is held accountable to not accountable to shareholders, investors, but to the actual American people, to real people, people that expect all of us to follow the laws. In the 2 years since he took office, President Trump ranked up more than 1,400 conflicts of interest involving the government, those trying to influence it and the Trump organization, according to reports released by the Citizens of Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. President Trump used his presidency to enrich himself by repeatedly promoting his businesses as extensions of his administration. Political allies, donors, special interests, and foreign governments have adopted a key tactic of patronizing Trump's businesses to garner favor with the Trump administration. Here are some key findings from the Crew's tracking of Trump's conflict of interest. President Trump made 118 visits to his properties in his second year in office, bringing his 2-year total to 281 visits to properties he still profits from while serving as President of the United States. In his second year in office, President Trump and other White House staff promoted the Trump businesses at least 87 occasions. More than 150 political committees, including campaigns and party committees, have spent nearly $5 million at Trump businesses since he became president. At least 13 special interest groups lobbied the White House since Trump's inauguration, some for the first time around the same time they also patronized the Trump property. At least 3 foreign governments held events at Trump properties during Trump's second year in office. 2 of those countries did so after holding similar events elsewhere in previous years. Not only has President Trump still refused to divest from his businesses, he seems to have doubled down by reinforcing the idea that the Trump organization is an extension of the Trump administration. These offenses must be investigated. In total, Crew found more than 900 conflicts in the second year of the Trump administration. This presents a clear picture of a presidency used to turn a profit and the president's businesses serving as points of access to the corridors of power. This report shows that as special interests, foreign governments and political allies continue to pour money into Trump's bank accounts, while the American public is left in the dark about whether or not the president and the policy decisions are made in the best interest of our country, or is it in the best interest of the president's bottom line, benefiting himself personally? We have been sent here to legislate, thinking about the historic For the People Act we passed right here in this chamber, the gun reform package we passed, legislation to protect our lands, to increase and strengthen health care for Americans, and much more. I am proud of my first bills. One that protects our public health in regards to petroleum coke exposure. The other that has wide range support would prohibit the use of credit scores by the auto insurance industry. However, Madam Speaker, none of these bills, none of them are free from harm that comes from the current administration and the President of the United States not complying with the clauses of the United States Constitution. When these conflicts and direct violations to the Emoluments Clause are not investigated, we set a dangerous precedent that those issues we passed in this chamber are not important. I think about the recent announcement that T-Mobile and Sprint would like the federal government to approve a merger between the two companies. In the same breath, T-Mobile spent close to $200,000 at the D.C. Trump Hotel. This is what we call an upgraded version of pay-to-play, and it dangerously corrupts our democracy. When President Truman sidestepped the Constitution and went to war, every sitting president has done the same. One of the first major challenges to the War Powers Act came in 1981 when President Reagan deployed military personnel to El Salvador without consulting or reporting to the Congress. In 1999, President Clinton continued bombing a campaign in Kosovo beyond the 60-day limit cited in the law. A most recent war powers dispute rose in 2011 when President Barack Obama initiated military action in Libya without congressional authorization. You see, when we do nothing, we set a precedent and allowing it to become the norm. I can't stress enough how dangerous this is to the core of our democracy. This will not be the last billionaire CEO who runs for president, who will attempt to not divest from his business interests. Now, what we've witnessed from this administration are acts that could very well be impeachable offenses outside of the scope of the Mueller's investigation. We have a duty in this chamber to inquire about these acts, to investigate them, to find out if there was any wrongdoing and seek accountability if it has been found. That's why today I've introduced a resolution that calls on the Judiciary Committee to inquire into these activities that may be impeachable offenses. These are serious pieces of evidence out there, many that have come through various committees of this body, in the media, and things within the public eye. An investigation will take a look of all of these things with the question on, are these impeachable offenses? Is our president acting above the rule of law? As Congress, we have a job to ensure that that is exactly what is not happening. And at the end, if it gets to the president to comply, then we do our job. We've done our job. If the president does it, we move forward at the very least, putting any future president on notice that Congress will hold you accountable and will require you to divest in your businesses. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield back the remainder of my time. I'll yield back to my good colleague from Texas.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2019, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, is